Good morning, Tim.
Good morning. How are you?
We're good. How about you?
Good. You are up bright and early.
Oh my goodness, we are.
I'm still setting a few things up, so don't mind me too much.
No worries. I'm going to mute
out.
you so you don't hear our banter here.
Oh, you guys can banter all you want. No worries.
What's your background today? Are you in New York City?
Oh, that's my office. You didn't know that?
No.
No, I'm kidding. That's not. I wish that was my office. I have a special background that I'll show later.
Oh, good.
Ooh, ooh la la.
He's very creative.
Nice.
But I got to get our Belle invited to the meeting here.
Exactly. So the Rotary Bell gets invited to the meeting.
I got to mute. There we go. Where is it? Here's our Belle. Let's see.
In one piece.
I am in one piece.
That is awesome.
That will keep me honest and not touching my face too. All you guys would be like,
you know what? Hey Tim, next week we should bring our masks, and just because I know Jan's made me a fancy mask, and I bet you a bunch of others might have some cool masks.
So we can have a show off your fancy mask day.
Yeah, show your mug.
All right, I'm making a note. Show your mug. We can do big reveals at the end of the meeting. All right.
Yeah. Ooh, put it back on. Ooh.
All right. Can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
All right. We will go ahead and get started. Oh shoot, I gotta reshare. Just a second. I gotta make sure I do this right this morning. I can find my mouse, which has disappeared.
So you're the maid? Is that what you are?
Good memory there, Mr. Mayor.
Good call, Keith.
No, he's Alice.
The maid.
That's pretty funny.
Or the house manager.
Right.
Yes.
The foundation of the household.
I'm pretty sure in the 70s it was called maid.
All right. Can everyone see the prezzo?
No, we're looking
Seeing
at
a whole lot of stuff on your screen.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
looking at the whole screen. I got the wrong one. Just a sec here. Share. How about now?
Yeah.
Now we see your slides. Yeah.
All right. So we'll go ahead and, boy, that's loud in the morning in a confined office. We'll go ahead and start the meeting. Welcome to our Friday meeting, everybody. Thanks for joining us via Zoom. Best place to be at 6:45 a.m. on a Friday morning. Better than speaking in unison on Zoom. The reason I said that, I always enjoy at the end of our meetings when we do our four-way tests. It's trying to speak in unison. And the reason I thought about that is there was a suggestion that we bring back the Pledge of Allegiance. And we talked about that in the board meeting and how would we do that. So I think I came up with an idea. But since we're really rusty, I thought, and since I've been immersed in homeschooling and distance learning with my kids, I thought maybe we'd do a refresher on the Pledge of Allegiance. So I've got a little video for all of you. So if you're all ready for a little instruction and a little Pledge of Allegiance, here we go.
Hey, good morning, friends. Charlie here. We're going to start the day by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, so the first thing we do is everybody stand up. Go ahead and quietly stand up. Good. And then when you're standing up, what do we do with our hand, our right hand, do you know? That's right, you put it on your heart, just like that. And now we're going to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. You ready? Here we go.
Here we go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, great job. You did it. Have a good day at school, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Nice touch, Tim.
Love it.
I hope,
love it.
I'm sorry?
I love what you did.
Oh, great. That was one of the first videos that popped up when I Googled Pledge of Allegiance video. So there was random luck on the Google search engine side. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed that. And next up on our agenda is Maya. You have an inspiration for us. And Maya, I hope I got the right picture for you.
Oh, yep. I'm glad I printed it out too, because sorry, I can't read that. But back in my previous life, before I call it my previous life, my real life before children, I worked at Wieden & Kennedy, which is an advertising agency. And one of the projects they've been working on worldwide is the stay-at-home campaign. And so today what I did is I brought a poem that one of the writers she lives in Milan, wrote, and she's been really good about sharing her experience in Milan with everyone, and it's been very interesting to watch. So anyway, I thought I would bring along this poem this morning that applies really to people everywhere. Hello, coronavirus. Welcome to our world. Make yourself at home in the empty streets, in the empty ballparks, in the empty bars and restaurants. Make yourself at home on empty sidewalks, in places with no people. Try to sustain yourself on all the nothingness we arranged just for you. We left. We took life to a safer place out of your reach. We took our dancing and our singing and our bedtime stories and our creativity where you can't touch them. We have our ways of staying together even when driven apart. You don't. You need us in order to survive. We just need each other, joining forces against you from wherever we are. Watch us. Endure is what we do. Stay at home. There you go.
Awesome.
Thank you, Maya. That was awesome. Next on our agenda is anniversaries. I don't think Lynette or Mike are in the meeting this morning, so we'll skip that for today.
Could we,
Oh.
hey, Tim,
Yes.
we have a few guests on the line. Maybe we can have just a quick introduction.
Oh, good point. Sorry, I forgot about that. Yes, we have some guests on. Let me stop the share for a second here.
I would queue up Wendy to introduce Carol, perhaps.
Wendy, can you do that?
Why, certainly I can. So Carol, someone that I met through my work at the Senior Center, and she also is very involved in Seroptimus in Newburgh. And so I invited her to join our meeting today because she's been following Liz's activities. And so I know Carol's on the line. I also believe Dottie Mueller, who is actually our neighbor, and also someone that had been following Liz through her journey the last 2 years. I think Dottie is also on the line. I'm not sure who else might have joined us.
I think Ricky Bobby.
Ricky
Oh,
Bobby.
that's you.
That's Tim.
That's
Yeah.
my alias, and that's
Yeah.
actually the bell.
Yeah, I figured that out just a little bit, 2 seconds too late.
Wendy, I think we have one more guest, right?
Oh,
Yes,
well,
Ann Poe.
yes, we do. Perhaps Liz would be considered a guest. It's hard for me to think of her as a guest to Rotary because she is actually the reason that I am part of Rotary. So yes, my daughter Liz Wells is here today as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think Liz, I think Ann Poe is on also.
Did Ann make it? Okay, great. Thank you very much. So yes, Ann, another lady that I met through my work at the Senior Center. And she has also been following Liz's journey.
Yay.
Awesome.
So nice to have extra people. Yay.
It is. 4 guests this morning is awesome. All right, so let me bring back our screen share, see if we can do this right. All right, youth exchange update. Anything new for us, Wendy?
I do not have a updated report or anything changed. I know Matthew's been working on his garden and his Spanish. Anything else new for you, Matthew?
Yeah, so the exchange students from Mexico, Jessica and Abby, I've been talking to them and DMing them about Mexico and just talking to them because I've got nothing else to do and it's pretty fun.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, they got a lot to say about like the social aspect there, and it's really cool.
Very good. Way to be. And I don't believe Levi was able to join us today, was he?
I don't think so, no.
I don't see Levi on the call.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, Wendy. Moving along to get my mouse over here. Club announcements. As usual, this will be short. Most of our stuff has been canceled well into the summer. Any update on the Peace Village?
We're going to have a meeting on May 4th and make a final decision, but I would say it doesn't look too good for this year.
I would tend to agree. Okay. Are there any other announcements?
Yeah, Tim.
Yes.
Faith in Action is now doing, asking that people write letters or cards to send to people that they work with. They can either drop them by their office in Newburgh or just mail them to them. I can post the address on our website or give it to Doug or
You want to just chat it in the thing here, and I can grab it real quick.
Yep, I'll do that. And then also, I guess there's an article coming out in the Gazette about the Robin Hood Festival. So typically, we help with the parade. So if somebody's interested in kind of being that connection, just let me know, and I'll put you in touch with them.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. Anything else?
A PSA for this call: if you're not speaking, go ahead and mute your mic out, because there is a little bit of a feedback loop in here. So if you can just be nice and just unmute yourself when you go to talk.
All right. Okay, awesome. So moving along here, just a real quick announcement. So as most of you know, there was a small committee that was put together that had club members, board members, club members, and foundation members to look at our bylaws for both organizations and bring them forward into this modern day. I think the last time we updated them was back in 2016. Rotary International every 3 years goes through a process of kind of changing the rules and talking about what should be included. Like, for instance, in their last round, they lightened the restrictions on attendance and having to meet every week. So we incorporated some of the changes coming from Rotary International, and then we also just cleaned it up, made it easier to read, and simplified some of the processes that are outlined in the bylaws. For instance, how we elect board members is an example, or how the foundation board members are appointed and elected. And we wanted to make sure there was good checks and balances between the club and the foundation in terms of managing our money. So with that in mind, the process moving forward is to adopt the new bylaws. The whole club gets to vote on that. So what I'm going to do after this meeting is send everyone here a link to the new bylaws for the club and the foundation. So if anyone's interested, they can review those and look at them. If you have suggestions, just email me or Chuck, and we can talk about those and potentially integrate those suggestions. The goal will be that next week we will actually vote on the new bylaws. So you have a week to look it over and provide any feedback. For the foundation side, the way those bylaws are adopted is the foundation board actually votes on them. But we do need to allow 2 weeks for the club to review those and provide suggestions before the foundation board votes on their bylaws. So that board will need to schedule a meeting, greater than 2 weeks out, 3 to 4 weeks out, to finish that process. And Ben, we can coordinate on that. But anyways, I wanted to let you know that's coming. Take a look at it, see what you think. If you have any suggestions or questions, call, whatever, just give me or Chuck, drop us a note or give us a call. We're more than happy to talk about that. Or I should mention Carly and Mike McSweeney, who are also on that committee. You can call them with questions as well. Any questions on this? All right, hearing none, we'll move forward. So we're going to go ahead and do brags. Lynette and Mike weren't able to attend this morning, so I will play. I'm going to stop the share here. I will play Sergeant of Arms today, and I'm just going to go down the list as I see it. Hopefully I won't mess this up. Which Joe? That means you're first, Joe.
Thank you. The only thing I'm really excited about listening to Liz's Peace Corps experience. As many of you know, I was in the Peace Corps many decades ago. We've been going through some old boxes at home and found some great pictures. And my hair, actually, I remember this when I was in Africa. I didn't really get haircuts very often. And Kendra thought my hair was actually starting to look very similar already to my Peace Corps days. So hopefully that will not get that crazy. So
was it gray then too?
It was not gray, Mr. Mayor. It was very dark black, but very curly and long. So
please tell me you're going to bring back the mullet.
Time will tell. So That's all I have. Hope everyone's healthy.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. Ben, or actually the order is changing on me. I'm going to switch gears here. Wendy, do you want to go next?
Yes. I want to thank Mud Puddles for having wonderful jigsaw puzzles. We got a couple this week and hammered through them. We're going to have to get some more, but it was kind of fun. Liz and I were doing that. So, and a lot of time in the yard this week. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
And it's great having Liz home.
Awesome. We've been doing puzzles from Mud Puddles as well. Maureen, would you like to go next?
Yeah, just good to see everybody as usual. And looking forward to hearing house. So on a positive note.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maureen. Mr. Bowl, Ben Bowl. Here, I'll unmute you.
Yeah, I think I'm on.
I unmuted you, Ben. You're good. Oh.
How about that?
There you go.
Okay. Isn't technology wonderful? So we've not been doing puzzles, but we're doing a thing called Color Cube, which is Sudoku with a bunch of colored balls, and it's pretty darn tough. And it seems to have gotten tough since we're skipped the practice on it for several months, but we're getting into the swing of things. Things are all right up here on the hill. It's really pretty. Love watching the sun come up in back of Mount Hood. It's life could be worse.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. Keith Mays.
Yeah, no real brag. I didn't think I was late to the meeting. I didn't think I'd pop up that fast. No, if everyone's doing well. Yeah, take a minute and drive about, look at the Cascade Range and around. There's some mountain peaks that you can see now that we normally do not anymore. So have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, Keith. Maya, would you like to go next?
Things here are pretty good. Just enjoying some time outside in the beautiful sunshine. And for anyone who had been dealing with the PPP program, it's, I don't know where Bruce went. He was on my screen, but Bruce, we finally got our PPP loans this morning.
Yay!
We've been desperately looking for anyone who had gotten one, and we couldn't find anyone. And this morning we woke up, we got our papers yesterday. And then of course, literally within minutes of when we got our email saying we got our papers to sign, it said, oops, it just ran out of money. And so we thought we wouldn't get it. But this morning we woke up and we have money in our account. So
nice.
That's hugely, it's gonna be a lot of work, but it's hugely exciting for us. So good news today.
Awesome. Third company I know of now.
Oh, excellent. Well, we have two, so we got both.
Nice.
So you can count us as 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's great news. Awesome. Let's see who's next. Doug Mueller.
Hey, I just have to say one of the highlights this week, Liz was talking to Liz. I actually got a phone call into her since she's been back in the States. So that kind of made my day. And then just dealing with all the stuff, more information will follow when I have it for Stuart. So I will share with the club and bring it up, but just dealing with some health issues on that side. So that's all I've got.
Awesome. Thank you, Doug. Fred, what do you got going on today? Fred, we can barely hear you.
Hear me okay?
You're really soft. Might lean forward towards your mic.
Oh, there we go. How's that?
Perfect.
And beautiful day. Just happy that it's spring, and love everybody's resiliency.
Thank you, Fred. Jamie.
Hang on, I'm here. Hi, everybody. I tried to do the background the background image, and
hey, there you are.
It's not working that great. But anyway, green screen, I guess. But I just want to, I'm excited to hear Liz's talk, and I want to shout out to Wendy, who is going to be dropping off another puzzle to my place, maybe, because we've been working on a puzzle for 3 weeks, because we're not doing it every day, because we're just like, we're not really powering through the puzzles, but like, we got through a 1,500 piece puzzle for the first time ever, and it only took us 3 weeks, 4 people, 3 weeks. So anyway, that's my shout out. I hope everybody's doing great, and have a good weekend.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Gary, you're up next.
Well, I'm anticipating there's going to be a lot of great vegetables this summer if everybody's taking the same opportunity I have to get started on their garden early.
Awesome. We got a bunch of seedlings going on our garden right now.
Hopefully no sneak frosts.
That's right. Miss Jane, how are you doing this morning?
Here we go. I'm gardening as much as I can, and I can't wait to hear what it has to tell us.
Thank you, Jane. And Travis. Travis, you're missing. There's someone missing this morning.
Yeah. Well, no, they were up early, way earlier than I was. So that's what I was a little late today getting them started. But I actually want to kind of brag on Joe here. He's been his social media presence for just keeping the people of Sherwood at ease has been phenomenal. Just appreciate your outreach on Facebook, specifically. So yeah, good job, Joe, staying on top of all that.
How do I get it brighter? Do you know how to get it brighter?
Anyway, yeah, that's what I have. I think everybody have a good weekend.
Awesome. Thank you, Travis.
Sideways.
Karen.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying walking outdoors and running outdoors. The weather has been spectacular, so glad for the warmth and the sunshine.
Do it this way next time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen. And let's see here. Renee, or should I call you the Sherwood Police Foundation?
Yeah, I don't have anything today.
Okay. Thanks, Renee. I like your mask, by the way.
Thanks.
All right. Joe.
You heard from me already.
Oh, did I? Well, you moved it. You changed position on my screen. Sorry.
That's all right.
I'm trying to keep track of this here. Let's see here. Kim, how about you? I'm going to unmute you, Kim, so we can hear you.
That'd be good.
All right.
So since we've been housebound, since we've been home, we were killing it on the outdoors. We moved into a new house before we left and are getting massive yard work done, and just started our garden yesterday. And I'm super excited that Sunday I actually get to leave my house and go grocery shopping for my very own.
Nice. Or be prepared for lines.
Oh, I'm hearing. That's okay. I get out of my house, off my property.
Yeah, the line at Costco when I went the other day was wrapped around behind the building.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I'm not going to Costco.
Yeah. It moves fast, though, because everyone's 6 feet apart. All right. Thank you, Kim. Bruce.
Okay. I think I'm on.
You're on.
Good morning again. So let's see. I want to really congratulate Maya. That's really exciting news. And I just want to brag about all the businesses that are working so hard to try to overcome this emergency. And I also want to thank our congresswomen and U.S. senators for their help and trying to help our businesses as best they can. And I think also maybe Washington County for coming out with their program. I know of one business in Sherwood that's applied for the Washington County funds, the loan or the grant. I'm not quite sure which. And then I think I want to echo the mayor, which is always a good idea, I think. And that is, I was going home last night and I thought I saw some clouds, but it was Mount Hood. And I thought that was a great aura to be able to see Mount Hood this time of year. Anyway, that's all I have. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Bruce. And there's someone on the call named iPhone.
It could be me, maybe. Are you at phone?
That sounds like it's you. Who's that? Who's you?
Oh, Ann Poe.
Oh, hi, Ann. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, I'm just thrilled that Liz got home and that she didn't have the coronavirus. And I have sent a message to the White House about the plight of the returning Peace Corps folks who maybe have not gotten their salary yet and do not have a home to go to and have no job and will get no stimulus money. So it is really a critical situation for the returning many Peace Corps folks. So lots of prayers for them, and hopefully somebody will be concerned about them as they've returned. We need many thanks for all the work that they have done for us.
Awesome.
People of action. Way to go, Ann.
Thank you, Ann. Awesome. Let's see here. I'm gonna make sure I don't leave anybody out here. Looking at my list and people. Mark.
Thanks, Tim. On my journey to get my blue badge back for Rotary, I attended the board meeting, as you know, Monday evening. So I want to give a shout out to the board. Appreciate the dedication of everyone that is putting their time in, and it was great to be part of that board meeting and see the good people doing the good work for us as a club. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And I keep telling everybody to come to the meetings. They're really exciting. Was the meeting exciting?
More than you can understand.
Thank you, Mark, for the plug. I got $50 coming later. Jeff, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm doing just fine, thank you. I will brag on my neighbors. I have I have several wonderful neighbors, but two in specific. One noted that we had a raised bed garden with no dirt in it. They went and got a load of dirt for us. So I thought that was really wonderful. My neighbor across the street was pulling out a tree stump last night. Needed a chainsaw, which I have, so I loaned him that. In the interim, he looked and said, well, you have a stump right there. How about we pull that out too? So we hooked the chain up and did. So we're great neighbors.
Awesome. Excellent. Thanks, Jeff. Verity, from your bed.
Yes. Just trying to keep busy, working also on a puzzle, which I hope is 1,500 pieces, but it is from a secondhand shop, so time will tell. It'll be my first 1,500 piece puzzle if I can complete it. And then just a little PSA. If you guys don't know, Andrew Lloyd Webber has put his musicals up on the weekends. So this weekend is Phantom of the Opera on YouTube, and it's UK time, so it starts like today at 11 and ends on Sunday at 11. They already did Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Raincoat and Jesus Christ Superstar, but until this is over, every weekend I'm doing that. And then also the Oregon Symphony is having a virtual gala, and it will feature Storm Large on Sunday at 7 p.m. So you can watch 30 minutes live streamed. So I love her. I think she's great. And so that's what I will be doing Sunday evening. That's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Verity. And let's see here. Matthew Doyle.
Oh, oh yeah, I kind of already had an update. The garden saplings are just coming in, and I planted sunflowers and cucumbers, and I'm excited to see how they grow. But I'm just really hoping for no frost, because that would suck.
Yes, yep.
And yeah, just studying Spanish and doing schoolwork.
Awesome. Thank you, Matthew. And then let's see, Carol, would you like to say anything?
You unmuted me. Thank
I
you very
did.
much. Just wanted to say thank you to Wendy for inviting me to join, and also to all of you for the warm welcome you gave to my Seroptimus sister, the treasurer of our Chehalem Valley group, Debbie Lou. I think it was November 8th, and she told you a little bit about our organization, which in many ways is similar to yours. No borders, none of that stuff. just a welcoming embrace for the whole world. Thank you very much, Wendy, for your invitation. And Liz, I'm really looking forward to hearing your speech this morning.
Awesome. Thank you, Carol, and thanks for joining us this morning. And I'll go ahead and mute you now, if that's okay.
It's okay.
Awesome. And then Dottie, did you want to say anything, Dottie? Oh, here, I'm going to unmute.
School.
There you go.
Okay. Is it unmuted now?
It is.
Okay. I not only got to watch Liz growing up, but I also had her in school as her substitute teacher from 6th through 12th grade. And I have kept up with her through the years and really do love her. And I'm really anxious to hear her speak.
Awesome. Thank you, Dottie. Let's see, Elizabeth, did you want to give a brag out before you give your speech?
Just that I have really appreciated all of the support that both Rotary as an organization, but also individual Rotarians gave me throughout the last 2 years. It was really hard to be so far away for so long, and that continued support and outreach and wise words that were extended to me from Rotarians were immensely helpful. So I will be eternally grateful for all of my friends in Rotary.
Thank you very much. So I think I got everyone.
No, you skipped the president-elect who's hiding down there in the toilet paper roll.
Are you sure? I was hoping I hadn't skipped him. Chuck, I muted you.
Unmute. Ha!
Yep, there you go.
Yes, you tried to skip me. I'm just sitting here. I'm just sitting here in my vault, counting my wealth. The only other thing I have to count right now is my Safeway Monopoly game pieces, and I'm really looking forward to Safeway's next version of a game, which I think is going to be Risk.
That's awesome. Thank you, Chuck. Did I miss anybody else? The list was changing order on me. I tried to keep track of this. Anyone else want to say anything? Awesome. Well, I will keep mine really super short. I just want to brag on Jeff and Boom. You may not know who these are unless you're a Lego fanatic like I am, but Lego Grand Masters tournament just ended and they got second place. So it was nice. And they are from Portland, so that's why I wanted to brag on them. It's nice to see some Portland folks do well and show. But if you haven't watched the Lego Masters show, it's a lot of fun. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on. We have Elizabeth with us, who was recently in Zambia. Wendy, do you want to do the introduction on this one?
Sure. So, yeah, Liz is it's so good to have her back home. And many of us were following her on Facebook. She had a blog called A Redhead in Zambia. And she's put together a little snippet of her last 2 years. Here's my youngest, Liz Wells.
Thank you. We're gonna trade seats actually real quick. So I'm driving. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna jump right in. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Like my mom introduced me, my name is Liz Wells and I'm a returned Peace Corps volunteer from Zambia. I served from 2018 to 2020. I got home almost a month ago now. We were evacuated because of COVID-19. However, I only had about a month left in my service. So things aren't too bad for me individually. If anything, I got to come home a little bit sooner, which has been nice. So I'm just going to share a lot in a short amount of time because I want to make sure that we do have some room for questions at the end. So if you do have a question, please write it down and save it for the end so we can get through everything and finish on time. Okay, So my background with Rotary, I recognized several of you, but I was very involved in the Interact Club of Sherwood. I then went to Oregon State University, where I was a charter member of the Rotaract Club there. And then I was also the Sherwood sponsor for RILA in 2017. So I've been pretty involved with the Rotary Bunch since my high school career. So today in my presentation, we're going to talk about what Peace Corps is, where Zambia is located, why I applied, and just some of the big lessons and reflections on my service. I'm also gonna have Tim as the person that's kind of leading the presentation. Our code word, Tim, is going to be a Bemba word, and the word is Makwai. So when I say that word, that means change the screen, okay?
You got it.
Okay, I also wanted to share a few acronyms and terms I'm going to use just so we're on the same page. When I say PC, that means Peace Corps. PCV is a Peace Corps volunteer. HCN is Host Country National. COS means close of service. BOMA means a town with government buildings. Bush, or the bush, is villages or undeveloped land. Tarmac is a paved or tarred road. Site is my catchment area or my community where I lived for 2 years. And host is the host country. And in my case, my host country was Zambia. Okay, Makwai, Tim. We have a little disclaimer here because I worked for the government. The views shared in this presentation are entirely mine and do not reflect the opinions of the United States government. Makwai. So Peace Corps in Zambia, I know there's at least one returned Peace Corps volunteer on this chat, and there's also a parent of a returned Peace Corps volunteer. Otherwise, Peace Corps isn't talked about too much in the main media. So just a refresher on what that is. When you sign up for Peace Corps, it's a 27-month commitment. So that includes 3 months of training in the host country, and then 24 months of service in a single community. Depending on your post, you will always live at the level of your community. So in rural Zambia, that means I was living at the level of a rural Zambian community. So for me, that meant no running water. We relied on wells and springs nearby, no electricity, and no driving. However, in other countries, if you're living in a city, it's very likely that you could be in an apartment, you could have electricity. It's just important that you're living at the level of the community you're serving. So what you do when you get into Peace Corps and your training's done and you get to your community, you identify counterparts to partner with, and then you promote the 3 goals of Peace Corps. The 3 goals being providing skilled workers or volunteers in an area requested by the host country, share American culture with the host country, and then share host country culture with other Americans. So those are the big 3 goals. And you'll realize that 2/3 of our goals were cultural, and that comes into play big time when working for Peace Corps. Just the pictures on this page, the top right, that's me in front of my hut in rural Zambia with some of the kids nearby. And then down below, that's me and one of my counterparts, Pastor John. We're standing in front of a recently planted avocado tree that's standing before us. Makwai, Tim. Tell me a little bit more. So for a lot of people, I guess a lot of people might not know where Zambia is, and that's okay. I didn't either until I got an invitation to serve in Zambia. So Zambia is a landlocked country in southern Africa. It's formerly known as Northern Rhodesia, and it's most famously known for being home to Victoria Falls. You can see the 2 images on the right. The top one is the outline of where Zambia is in southern Africa, and then The picture in the middle, that red outline, is the area I was assigned to serve. Instead of states, they have provinces. So I was assigned to the Luapula Province, which is right there nestled next to Congo, which we'll talk a little bit more about what Luapula Province is like as a whole. So Peace Corps was invited to Zambia in 1994. Currently, there are 4 project areas that Zambia has asked for. One being agroforestry, which is the program I served in, fish farming, health, and education. So there are only 4 projects currently in Zambia because the host country actually has to invite Peace Corps in, and they choose what programs they would like to see. So if they're not asking for it, Peace Corps is not providing education around that. Also, in all African posts, projects must incorporate some type of HIV programming. So no matter what project you're assigned on, everyone gets trained in HIV education and is equipped with tools for sharing information in their own community. Zambia is actually the largest Peace Corps post in the world. At the time of our evacuation, we had over 400 volunteers in Zambia. We oftentimes will compete with Peace Corps Ukraine, depending on the number of people that are coming and going. Zambia and Ukraine are 2 of the largest Peace Corps posts in the world. Okay, Makwai. So Makasa community was the community I was assigned to for 2 years, and that's in the Luapula Province, which is in the northeast part of the country. There's so many languages that they speak in Zambia. It's not like I wish there was kind of one that could be used throughout the entire country, but sadly that's not the case. However, I was assigned a language called Ichibemba, which you can just call Bemba as a common name. And it is the largest local language spoken in Zambia. That being said, not everyone in Zambia speaks or understands that language. So language was a huge limiting factor, even moving about the country of Zambia. My catchment size was 1,500 people. So that was my total reach, the amount of people that I am tasked to try to educate and reach out towards in my 2 years. My distance to the Boma, which is the closest town with government buildings, was about 8 kilometers. It took me about 20 minutes on a bike to get there. And it was also 8 kilometers on the tarmac, on that tarred road. So it made biking pretty easy for me compared to my other neighbors who had upwards of 50 kilometers to their closest Boma. So the reason why a Boma is listed is because basically for Peace Corps volunteers, we view that as kind of a resupply area. So in the Bomas, you have access to larger markets and more stores, not necessarily grocery stores, but there's usually a wider selection available in the Bomas than what you can get locally in your community. Because I was in the environmental and forestry program, I just wanted to share some of the big commodities in our area, which is maize or corn, cassava, ground nuts, which we call peanuts, sweet potatoes, pumpkins, pineapple, mangoes, banana, and garden vegetables. Those are the biggest commodities that were grown in my area. Also, the industries in the Luapula area, the top one is actually tourism. So you can see in the photos, there's a beautiful sunset over a lake. That lake is called Lake Bengweulu, which the local translation means where the water meets the sky. And that lake brings a lot of tourism to the area. Also fishing, both out of the lake, but also fish farming. So digging ponds in fields and then stocking them yourselves is another big industry. Farming and agricultural production, charcoal production, both legal and illegal, is very popular. and woodworking, making furniture, is a very common trade people are trained in. So my community was called Makasa, which in the local language means feet, which I really loved. I didn't make that connection until about a year into my service, that I lived in Feet Village. Some of the photos, so there's the photo of the sun setting on the lake, and to the right of that is from a hill looking down onto my community. It's a very green area. I think when a lot of people think of parts of Africa, they think of kind of the dry, really warm parts. And yes, it does get very warm in this area, but essentially I lived in a wetlands area. So it's green most of the year, and there's a lot of water. The picture down below are 3 of the kids in my area. Makasa is also very well known for being kid friendly. They're always there, they're always playing. And those are 3 siblings that are wearing banana leaves as headdresses and skirts. Makwai, Tim. So the reasons why I joined Peace Corps, I wanted to travel, I wanted to give back, I wanted to gain technical skills, I wanted to learn the intricacies of the food chain in Africa, and I also wanted to slow down. During university, I felt like my life was going a million miles an hour, and I wanted to have an opportunity to see what it was like to live without electricity, to not always have a cell phone in my hand, to just slow down. I think for the sake of time, we're going to move on. Makwai, Tim. So it was not what I thought. Every Peace Corps volunteer ever. There's a lot of assumptions that you make along the way about what your Peace Corps service is going to be like. Some ring true, but I think most people would say it's very different than what they thought. You go with the understanding that your community, from Joe, so true. Yes, you go with this thought that you are both wanted and needed in your community, and that you're needed there to work, which isn't necessarily true. I felt very needed in my community, but not always wanted. And they didn't always want me there to work. For my community, having a white volunteer for them was a source of pride, but they didn't really see me as a resource, which was a big challenge and kind of made me question why I was there, what I was doing with all of my time there. Makwai. So we have these expectations. So for me, I accepted an invitation to this country in Southern Africa. So I thought it's going to be great. I imagined this picture perfect African experience, which in some cases it was. So we have a tendency to romanticize what our service is going to look like, living in a new country. And for the first few months when you're in that honeymoon phase, it's really great. But that honeymoon phase is short-lived when you have fewer luxuries than you're used to, like electricity and internet. Makwai. So we have more of a reality. So the photo on the last page was lions on an actual safari that I got to go on. And shortly after that photo was taken, we got a flat tire. And that's very representative of what service is like. You have these high highs and then something goes wrong and you have to deal with it. Yeah, Makwai. Oh, I also realized I forgot to tell you what Makwai means. So Makwai is a Bemba word, which basically can mean a lot of different things, but it's a word that means I'm giving you respect. So that's what Makwai is. And you can use it almost like a comma. You can put it in between words, you can begin words with it, you can end words with it. So that's why I selected that word. Okay, so lessons and reflections. I listed these, but then we'll go talk about them one by one. Big lesson number 1, everything is done for a reason. 2, learn how to ask better questions. 3, never kill someone's American dream. 4, the power of sharing one's experience. 5, the spirit of Ubuntu. And then 6, if you're offered local alcohol, it's a trap and you will get diarrhea. So to the right, to the right is a photo of my cohort. This is all of the agriculture and fish farming volunteers from 2018 in the Luapula area. Makwai, Tim. So everything is done for a reason, even if you don't agree with it. To the right, I chose a photo of a local advertisement advertising an African doctor, which is a witch doctor. And most of the sign is in Bemba. However, there is very small at the bottom in English. It says, quote, "You need to tame your spouse, comma, power to be rich, comma, please don't hesitate," and then a cell phone number to reach if you need these services. Witchcraft was something I didn't do any research on before going to Zambia. It turns out it is a big part of most people's day-to-day lives. My area was very well known for traditional healers or witch doctors, and not so much for witches. So I was very, very protected in my area. I had several people I could employ if the need arised. So I learned right away that there is a reason everything is done, but it's kind of up to that Peace Corps volunteer. It was up to me to find out why this is important in a community, why something is done this way. No matter how crazy or outlandish something seems, it's probably deeply rooted in practical and traditional reasoning. Makwai. Ask better questions. I think a lot of Peace Corps volunteers think they're going to these new places hoping to find answers for these really big questions. For me, my big question is, why are people going hungry in Africa? I don't have the answer, but I have better questions that's getting at what could be possible answers. So learning to ask better questions is the first step along the way. So the photo on this is a Peace Corps volunteer with her counterpart, and they're standing in front of a malaria mural. Malaria is a huge issue in Zambia, despite the fact that the government gives out insecticide-treated mosquito nets every 3 years. They go to every single household, even in the most rural parts of Zambia, and they give out mosquito nets so people can be protected from malaria. And it's still a huge problem. So this wasn't really matching up. If everyone has a solution to protecting themselves from malaria, why are people still getting it? Well, then come to find out, fishing is a really common trade in my area. So a lot of people are taking those government sponsored nets and using them to fish instead of protecting their families. So kind of finding out what's going on allows us to come up with better questions so we can find actual solutions. Makwai. Never kill someone's American dream. This is a really important lesson I learned, especially early on. I was so ready to be out of the United States. I wasn't a big fan of what was happening in politics. And I quickly learned that I was coming from a big place of privilege and from a country that a lot of people dream about going to and hopefully living someday. So I actually read a book by a returned Peace Corps volunteer, and he shared this advice, and I really took that to heart because yes, the United States isn't perfect, but in many ways it can offer people a chance for hope, and hoping can mean everything for people. So just trying to keep the dream alive because there's really no point in talking about the problems. sometimes. So the photo on this slide is 3 of my children sitting on my bench with a copy of Becoming by Michelle Obama. Makwai. The next big lesson was the power of sharing one's experience, knowing when to share versus when to personally, or when to reflect personally. So the best advice I can give anyone who's in Peace Corps or even people studying abroad is to try your best to get people to come and visit you, even if not during your service, during some time, so they can actually see the place that you're coming from. So I was fortunate enough to have my parents come to actually see my village and meet some of my counterparts, which was huge. But one of the biggest other ways I shared my service was through a blog on Facebook, which I called a Redhead in Zambia. However, like trying to blog became harder and harder because it was really easy to share all of my success stories on my blog. But what becomes a challenge is when you're in a really bad mood, you're really homesick, you haven't had a good meal in several days, and you just have so many thoughts that you want to share about how terrible things are, but that's not fair it's not a fair representation of the overall experience. So it's kind of knowing when to reflect on what's going on and then share a more realistic version of what's happening at a later date. Okay, Makwai. We are almost there, and then we'll have no questions, I think. Okay, well, I think just 2 more lessons and then we're good. Okay, so the spirit of Ubuntu. So Ubuntu was actually a Rotary theme a few years ago, which is a Bantu word, which means I am because we are. In Bemba, it literally translates to all of the people. This photo is my youngest host brother, Dami, and he was one of the most influential people during my service. A lot of times I would have the kids do chores for me in exchange for food. And Dami would always, no matter what I gave him, a piece of bread, a piece of candy, he would always break it into several pieces to share with all of his siblings and friends, which is something a kid in the United States would probably only do if their parent reminded them that they need to share. Makwai. Okay, my last big lesson. Do not accept the local alcohol. There are so many types of local alcohol that they make in Zambia, but it is a trap. You will get so sick. This photo is me standing in front of my pit latrine, plugging my nose, because that is not a fun place to hang out when you're sick. Okay, I think that is our time limit for now. I'll still be available for questions, but I realize that some people need to get off to work. So yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
Well, awesome. Any questions?
So, Liz, you've been back for a month. Are you home yet?
Am I what yet?
Are you home yet? You've been back
am
to the
home.
States for a month. Are you home yet?
I am home now. I actually, for those who don't know, I quarantined up in Washington State with my sister. I was there for 3 weeks and I came home on Easter.
My point was that when Christy was came back from the Peace Corps, she came back a very different person, and it took her a long time to get back into the swing of things, that she really never returned to the person that she was when she left.
Oh, that's, so I see. Yeah, you had a deeper meaning behind your question. I think in many ways it's too early to tell, mostly because I'm coming home at a very strange time. because I'm still not able to see a lot of the people I wanted to see or do a lot of the things I wanted to do. Like I really, really wanted to get a haircut when I came home, and that's not possible. Well, my sister did cut my hair a little bit, but it's not the same. I think once everything opens up and goes back to normal is when I'll have a better idea of how I've changed. I still feel like I'm pretty isolated because I've just moved from one house to another. I haven't been in public really at all. So thank you. Good question, Ben.
Any other questions?
So we had one other experience with Christy, which was I think about 25 years ago, and she had been in the Central African Republic, and just before she took her Peace Corps assignment, the emperor, I think his name was Bokassa, was kicked out, but he was convicted of cannibalism. So that there was a bit of an aura over Christy when she went to the CAR. But we did go to visit to visit her, and she said, "Don't come to the Central African Republic. Can't we meet someplace else?" So we met in Kenya. Sandy and I were on a safari when she arrived. When we got back to the hotel, she'd been in the bathtub for an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that.
Awesome. Any other questions?
How can we be of assistance? What can we do? It's a challenging time for sure, but what can we do?
Well, in regards to Peace Corps as an organization, there is a petition going on that I can forward along to Tim, who can then give it to all of you guys. So basically, being employed by Peace Corps is very different than having a normal job. So essentially what evacuation did mean for a lot of volunteers is you pack your things, you get sent home, you don't really qualify for any unemployment benefits, you don't have the same Peace Corps health care that you thought you would have for however much longer you were in the service. And in some cases, not everyone has a good home to return to. So there is a petition asking for some very basic benefits for Peace Corps volunteers who have been evacuated that I'll send out. So if you haven't signed that already, that would be kind of the first action that you could take. And then personally for me, I think what would be really helpful is to continue to ask me well thought out questions, not just today, but even as time goes on. So I think my opinions and thoughts are going to continue to change and develop and deepen. So I would love to keep this dialogue going and open. So it's not something that I put behind me, but that's still, that my Peace Corps service is still a very present and active part of my life.
I'm happy to support you in any way I can.
Thank you, Miss Jane.
Awesome. Any other questions for Elizabeth? All right. Well, hey, Elizabeth, thank you so much for presenting today. That was fascinating. And thank you for the offer to continue to answer questions via the interwebs, even after this meeting. All right. So we will go ahead and move on with the meeting here. Next week, we'll be having our meeting on the 24th. And just a note, I'll try to send out the Zoom meeting invites every week, but it's going to be the same meeting ID and same password every week. So you can always use the same link to get in. All of you that joined us as guests today and our speaker are more than welcome to join our meeting next week as well. And next week, I got a note from Karen on who is inspiring, and I cannot remember. Karen, do you remember who it is?
Yes, it's John.
Oh, John. Yes, thank you, John. So yeah, so John will be inspiring next week, and we do not have a program for next week, so it'll probably be a club meeting unless we can pull magically find a program for next week. I'll keep you posted on that. All right, so with that, we will end our meeting with the four-way test. So I am going to, I believe I have a, I can't unmute you all when I'm sharing. Let me see if I can do that. Nope, I can't. So everyone, we'll go ahead and unmute and we'll do the four-way test. I'll wait for all the little mute signs to go off here. This is always entertaining. Alrighty, here we go. The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is the truth.
Truth.
Is fair to all
Fair to all concerned.
Third,
Will build goodwill and better friendships.
Fourth,
Will it be beneficial
To all concerned. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
I'll leave the meeting open here for a little bit if anyone wants to chat. So,
Congratulations again, Maya.
yes, that was awesome.
Welcome back, Liz. Glad you got back safely.
Thank you so much. Me too.
Thank you, guys.
That was a good presentation, Liz.
That was an excellent presentation.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I went super, super fast, but once again, I'm happy to continue to talk about this for as long as people have questions.
So this may be too soon to ask, but would you consider staying with the Peace Corps as a leader?
So yes, actually, I was tapped by several other Peace Corps volunteers to sign on for a third year to be a volunteer leader, which is something that I did consider, but ultimately what it came down to is I was not super happy living in Zambia. And I thought maybe it was because I was living in a really remote village and that I didn't always have a lot of work. And so if I was a leader, I would live in more of an apartment. I would have electricity. I'd have running water. But at the end of the day, I realized that I clash with the culture and that I didn't want, I was ready to leave Zambia. I learned a lot from that experience, but it's not a culture that was easy for me to adjust to. And I also, just as a woman, was treated very differently and oftentimes in a negative way. So I was ready to go.
That sounds very familiar.
However, if I was in a country where I really loved the environment, I loved the culture, it would be very easy for me to sign on for a third year. But I think in Southern Africa, not my place.
Good to learn things, I guess, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Now I know.
Exactly. Yep. Well, as Joe said, I'm sure it's an experience you'll never forget. So.
Yeah. I don't think I can, even if I wanted to.
So Maureen's daughter is living in Southern Oregon in Klamath Falls.
Oh, nice.
Talk about a culture shock.
That is a culture shock.
Yeah. Yeah. She's it's been interesting. She got down there, doesn't really know anybody, got acclimated to work, and then COVID hit. So she really doesn't know. But she's she's working in a lab in a hospital.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Wendy,
she's doing good.
It's Mark Farrer. I'm wondering if you can comment a little bit more about your comment about they're proud to have you, but maybe they at times or didn't want you to volunteer or work. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, sorry, and I saw your comment that you typed out, but we were short on time. So it's a very complex position being a white volunteer in a very rural environment. And being a white volunteer is a challenge because people will always treat you like a white volunteer, for better or worse. The fact that I was white came before my gender, where I was coming from. It determined how people would interact with me. And in a lot of cases, they were very excited because of my skin color. They believed me to be very wealthy and could physically give things, because in their mind, oftentimes when white people would come to their environment, they came with promises and physical goods. For example, there was actually an organization that came to my village and gave out free cell phones during while I was living there, and everyone asked why I wouldn't give out cell phones. And trying to explain like the realities of being a volunteer, living on a volunteer salary, means that like you just can't give as much as you want to give, and then also coming in
I'm good.
finding
They're just
a balance.
questions after the final one.
Kind of finding a balance of what you should be giving, and then also knowing what behaviors you're training by giving things out. But so when communities can apply for a Peace Corps volunteer, and then local staff actually go to that site. So they go to that site, they have a community meeting, and the community has to ask for a specific volunteer in one of the 4 programs. And they basically promise, yes, we're going to work with this volunteer. We're going to find housing for this volunteer. We're going to continue to support this volunteer in any and every way. But for a lot of them, they sign up thinking that that's going to bring money and development, physical development in the shape of markets, schools, clinics, which is not the case for a lot of Peace Corps volunteers. Yeah, I don't know if that answered your question. Mark, I think I talked about a lot of different things.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about why they didn't want you to work?
So they didn't want me really doing physical labor, which my program is in agriculture and forestry. So most of my programming was around doing demonstrations. So training people how to make compost, which means together we would be compost. However, as a white woman, there was a big part of their culture, which for people working with me, it means that they should be giving me respect. And that means telling me that I need to rest, that I shouldn't be doing manual labor. I need to rest. And so most of the times when I would try to engage in kind of any physical trainings, they were not, it almost made them uncomfortable seeing me doing physical labor, to the point where it was kind of like, okay, that's all right. Like, we can modify how I'm teaching. So my teaching moved away from hands-on to very lecture-based. So I would stand in front of a group, I would make all these posters, draw these diagrams. This is how you do compost. You have your organic materials, dried leaves, fresh leaves, and then they would do it while I just kind of chimed in and gave recommendations. But I had no idea how much of my work would be basically lecturing versus hands-on training, because I like the hands-on training.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And thank you for your service. Like Joe said before he left, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Happy to do it.
There's Ann.
Hello.
Hello.
I just wanted to see if you have heard from any of the other folks that came back that are in desperate situation. Is there anything that we could do to donate for any of those?
Good question. So I don't have an answer for you. I have been in contact with a lot of the volunteers that I served with, but no one specifically has reached out in need of assistance in that fashion. A lot of Peace Corps volunteers have really stepped up and offered their homes, their vacation homes for people to stay at in the meantime, but that's something I can look into and then get back to you on.
Okay, we are having helping hands on the 18th at Sherwood Methodist Church. So anyone here who is hungry can drive up and pick up food.
Okay.
It's 9 to 10 on Saturday, the 18th.
Okay.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you for presenting, Wendy.
Liz.
That's okay. We look alike.
Sorry. Yeah, I
It's
used
okay.
the name.
There
the
is a
name
family
in the
resemblance
chart. I'm
almost.
sorry, Liz.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Are there any other questions? Otherwise, we can let y'all go.
Hey, Liz.
Hi, Gary.
Great presentation. Hope you can do a continuation of it when we can all physically get together here in the next several weeks or something.
Yeah, I would love that very much.
Until then, stay well.
Okay. Thanks. You too. Bye, Gary. Do we sign off?
I guess so. We can.
Okay. I think that's for us too. We're gonna let everyone go. Thank you.
Leave button.